Oh, I didn't even see my thing on. Oh, wait. I didn't see it.
We can just continue with it. We'll just, yeah, man.
I put them here, and then the only other thing we're gonna be adding, well, that would be Wednesday, the resolution recognition. That's fine, I didn't
Okay.
even run that by
You're
Lou.
good?
I just did that
You're up.
myself. That's fine. Is he ready? You're ready? Or we'll wait for Lynn?
Good evening, everyone. This is the Municipal Council Work Session meeting for December 12th, 2022, 6 p.m. Can we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Brusher.
Here.
Councilmember Coyle.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Patel.
Here.
Councilmember Patil.
Here.
Councilmember Pointer. Councilmember Ship Freeman.
Here.
Adequate notice?
Adequate notice of this meeting is required by the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975 has been provided by the annual notice sent to the Home News Tribune, Star Ledger, Sentinel, and Desi Talk on November 25th, 2021, and posted in Main Lobby Municipal Complex on that same date.
Can we go to oral petition remarks? Anybody from the public would like to speak? Mr. Stoschel?
Walt Stoschel, 2118 Oak Tree Road.
You're recognized. You have the floor.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to invite the council to a program on Saturday, December 17th, 2022, at 12:30 p.m. at the Edison Main Library. Myself and Michael Gall of the Archaeological Society of New Jersey will present a program about the results of our 2022 archaeological dig at the Piscataway Town Burial Ground and Commons. At that program, you might find out if we found the 1836 schoolhouse foundation and the 1695 colonial townhouse location. So I'll leave this up here for the clerk to pass around, and please come out if you got the time, 12:30 on Saturday. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Stoschel. Appreciate your time. Anybody else from the public would like to speak? Yes, in the back. Okay. Maria, I'm sorry, Maria's next. I apologize.
Okay. Joel Bassoff, 17 Beach Lane. I'd like to note that in the Charlie Brown zoning matter, the developer did file an appeal to Superior Court. We were hoping that the council's unanimous decision would have resolved the matter and that the developer would come back with a proposal for some nice, profitable, single-family homes that would be similar to the rest of the neighborhood. But now it is in litigation. The council's lawyers are very smart and very skilled, but the developer is also represented by a land use specialist who's also very smart and very skilled. So even though the facts and the law are clearly on the side of the council's lawyers will have to be at the top of their game in order to vigorously represent the interests of the council and the public. If the firm of Raynone, Coughlin, and Mancello is adept at handling land use appeals, then we're in good hands. If this type of lawsuit is not within the firm's area of competency, I'm sure that they'll advise the council to retain special counsel to pursue this matter. Sometimes parties to a lawsuit try to settle a matter, so I'll put it on the record now that the public is opposed to any settlement that would involve multiple family construction. Settlement talks of that nature would invite intervention in the lawsuit by residents. We expect the council's lawyers to mount a vigorous defense of the council's decision. So that brings up the subject of rezoning. Everyone agrees that the GC golf course zone is inappropriate for the Charlie Brown site. Almost the entire periphery of the country club is zoned R-A, which is approximately 2 single-family lots per acre. So the council should really start the process of extending the RA zone to include the Charlie Brown site. It's not necessary to wait for the new master plan to be adopted. It's clear that the property belongs in the RA zone, and that's what the zoning should be when the litigation is concluded and the developer comes back to submit new plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria?
Maria Orchid, 83 Jefferson.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Just question, what's the status of the traffic study for Old Post Road and Boulevard of Eagles? Recently on Amboy Avenue, I believe it was Waltuna, there was a pedestrian accident. So I was wondering if we could have that area checked to make sure it's not too dark at nighttime for people that might be crossing the street. I'd like to invite everybody on Thursday, December 15th at 7 p.m. The Edison Environmental Commission is having their meeting, open to all. We'd like to have everybody come to our meeting. The Edison Human Relations Commission and the Clara Barton Neighborhood Preservation Group is having a taste of the holidays on Saturday, December 17th from 6 o'clock to 8:30. All we ask is please bring a dish. It will be at the Clara Barton First Aid Squad. Looking forward to seeing everyone there. I'd like to say happy holidays to everyone. And for the New Year's resolution, I would like to see the official list that's on the website to be updated for the new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Just to the BA, if we can get a study emailed, if there's a study available for the Old Post Road from Maria, we can get back to her by email. And also, if there's a lighting issue, perhaps the DPW can go out, look at the lighting, and reach out to PS&G for Amboy Waltuma. And to the clerk, when and if it's available to update the committee list. Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public who'd like to speak? All right, seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close the public
Do you have a
portion.
second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. And nays? Motion carries to close the public portion. Moving forward here, can I have a review of the council minutes from the work session November 28, 2022, and the regular meeting for November 30th, 2022? Any questions or comments? Hearing none, just for council comments, I first want to add to the Housing Authority, Deborah Andrews to the agenda, okay, for tonight's work session. I also want to add 4 people to the Cultural Arts Committee: Anthony Massaro, Christine Tambini McCann, Judith Tyndall, and Diana Jaffe. Moving forward to points of light.
Council
First from
President?
council members, any comments on points of light?
Council President?
Yes.
Yes.
You have the floor.
A couple of things. Edison Art Society, actually, this is from December 5th to December 30th, but the reception is going to be on Wednesday, December 14th at 6:30 p.m. upstairs. This is the art of Nella Zadra, and so you are invited to attend, to take a look at the artwork. I see some samples, and it looks lovely. So that is ongoing until the 30th, but the reception would be right before this meeting at 6:30 on Wednesday. And there are always some really terrific exhibits up there. So and then continuing with the arts, and Council President just talked about the Cultural Arts Committee. We are so excited about this endeavor that it's finally getting off the ground. And Council President and I had interviews on Friday, a bunch of them, and we're really happy with these first picks that we're putting on the agenda. What everyone had in common was in us asking, what are some of the things you would like to see with regard to cultural arts in Edison? Almost unanimously, the first thing that people said was they want to see a performing arts center. And so obviously that's right in my wheelhouse. I've been talking about that since day one here. So we think we're going to have a really good team to get this going and get this off the ground. So I am so excited about this and to see some progress on this actually happening for next year. So those are my points of light. Council President, thank you.
Council President?
Yes, Council Vice President, yes.
And referring to cultural arts in the Arts Committee, I'm glad that we're going to have one to get together because I have been working with the county on bringing jazz to our community because I think it's much needed. And I think at that particular time, like other schools do, we'll be able to show off our Edison High and our J.P. Stevens jazz bands. And we'll be able also to show off some of our dance troupes so everybody can come to Edison and see that we're now part of the loop because they started a new loop with Middlesex County. It used to be Somerville, but now we're taking that space so to be just synonymous with all of Middlesex County. And I think that will enhance us by us having jazz and dance within our township also.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Any other council comments for points of light?
Council President,
Yes, Councilman
wanna-
Luis Patel, yes.
I just wanted to mention our very own Edison resident Nihal Tamanna, who at a young age is making a huge difference for the future of our kids and our community. His program, Recycled My Batteries, has been recognized by CNN Heroes All-Star Tributes, and we as a council should recognize that. Thank you.
Fantastic. Any other points of light from council members before I read our points of light? Hearing none, the list goes as follows. December 7th and 18th is the last weekend of the Winter Wonderland in Marketplace. Please come out and check it out. It's a beautiful thing we put together with the council, administration, and the mayor. On Saturday, December 17th, 6 to 8, Edison Human Relations Commission is having the Taste of the Holidays at the Claire Barton First Aid Squad. Monday, December 19th, the first day of Hanukkah. The township office hours are Friday, December 23rd is a half a day from 8 a.m. to 12 noon. Monday, December 26th, offices are closed. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. Last call for any other points of light from council members. Hearing none. We're moving to each department here. From the Business Administrator, A, B, C, and D. Any questions or comments from council members?
Council President?
Yes.
C, we have promotional items, trophies, and awards. We have a lot of things, I guess, that come across our desk, and a lot I don't agree with, but, you know, I voted for to support the mayor and his agenda. But this is one item that I just can't seem to get behind. You know, having lived in the generation where we're all winners and we all get awards, I think was a mistake on my part as a parent and the rest of the other parents that I took place in. But, you know, I watched the mayor got flamed by the council members here when she spent $65,000 on leaf bags that benefit 80% of the population. This $65,000 is not going to benefit that many people in Edison. On top of that, when I looked at some of the items that are being purchased, I'm offended as a Democrat. You know, I mean, we're purchasing plastic water bottles. Now, I have to tell you, you probably have heard that plastic is a problem. You've probably also heard that you shouldn't put your water in plastic. It should be in a metal container or a glass container. And what we're doing then is we're going to purchase plastic containers to hand out. And I guess because they're cheap, right? But they end up in the trash and in the landfill. So, yeah, I just feel strongly about this one. And I just wanted to make that apparent. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Brescher. Madam Clerk, make sure the comments of the councilman reflect the record in the minutes. Thank you. Moving on, any other council comments from A, B, C, and D? Hearing none, moving on to the Department of Finance, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. and H. Any questions or comments from the council members?
Council President?
Yes, Councilmember Rich Pressure, you have the floor.
Yes, on our, we're transferring funds.
Which number?
E, resolution transfer of funds. I mean, I don't feel happy that we're transferring funds from our police and our fire or our administration. You know, I believe that they need the money to make sure we get the stuff done, and police and fire need to make sure that they're, but I do understand that we have a hole there with our insurance. So I do see that that insurance cost has gone up, and then we have a projected increase coming next year also, you know, with the state approving stuff. So I do know that, and I thank Sonia for it, at least she gave me the numbers for our projected debt, because that looks like that's coming down a little bit for next year, correct? To help us offset some of that?
Yes, about 3 million.
Right, so I mean, that's good, and unless we increase our debt moving forward, which we're going to have to a little bit, but, right, I mean, this just gives me a little bird's eye view of next year is going to be a little bit more difficult for us, you know, budget-wise. Maybe that's what set me off on the 65,000 for promotional items, you know, seeing where we're going with the increased costs as of late. That's it, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Pressure. Any other questions from the Department of Finance from council members? Hearing none, moving forward to number 10, Department of Law, A and B. Any questions or comments from council members?
Council President,
Yes, Councilmember Patil.
on A, question to Council President, question to administration. This is for the Comcast, right? Do we know any specific area, or they are asking townwide?
Yes, it's in the area of Raritan Center. This is Comcast, excuse me. This is Comcast Business. So it is, they have business customers in, like I said, in the area of Raritan Center that they are going to service specifically. And I know, Councilman, I apologize, there was a question with regards to the length of it. This is a utility easement, so they're typically 50 years because the utility, in this case, the cable company, has to, you know, they have to make the investment in the infrastructure. So they, when they have their contracts with their business customers, they have to be able to recapture their investment.
Absolutely.
So it's pretty standard stuff.
Yep, and we should give the best service, whatever the help they need, so that they get the feel that this township is welcoming the other cable companies to do the business in Edison. So hopefully, once they are done with the business portion, they would look at the residential part as well.
And once again, this is competition, right? Correct. So and there are a lot of companies that compete on the business side of it.
Correct. Yep. Thank you.
Can I ask you one question about this? I know that area. Is that on the Woodbridge side of it by Royal, or is it the whole Raritan Center?
I think it's all of Raritan Center. And they have customers in there already, so this is kind of expanding their footprint in Raritan Center.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving forward, any questions or comments for number 10, Department of Law, A and B? Hearing none, moving forward to 11, Department of Planning and Engineering, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Any questions or comments from council members?
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Brescher, you have the floor.
Yes, I see a problem that, well, okay, I mean, I have my CME thing, right, which is G. I've asked a copy of their bills pertaining to what this contract increase would be. I did get a list of all their contracts that they have, but what I was looking for was they're looking to expand on this old resolution to add the 35,000. So I was looking to see what they have done that spent $100,000 to date.
I can get that for you specifically to this resolution.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for there. Then with E,
Okay, so you're done with B, Mr. Brescher?
done with G.
That was G, okay, done with G, okay, E?
I'm
Okay.
going back to E. We have a resolution refunding tree maintenance bond, and there's three of them. And one of the things that I found alarming is we're going to return a bond to someone that finished their project in, I think it was 2017. I was just going to try and look it up. But they finished it in 2017. They have to put the trees and maintain them for a period of 2 years. So that would be like 2019. And we're signing off and giving this back to them, irregardless of if the trees are alive or dead, because since it's over the 2-year period, nobody can tell whether they were alive during that period or not. So my recommendation here is, and I'd like the administration to guarantee us, is that every project, if they have a 2-year maintenance period, our engineers should be out there the month before to inspect this, not at the point where they recommend. Because if I had to plant 400 trees on a property, or if you're going to take that property that we still haven't finished over by Hoover, the Camelot, if half their plantings are dead, but they don't request the money back for 3 years, we're going to give them all the money back, even though the plantings died in the first 6 months. So, how does this not happen again, that we have dead plants that we can't prove because we didn't go out and inspect them in time?
Could you clarify your question specific to, are you making a recommendation for an inspection?
No, I'm
see if I
saying-
can, I think I understand the question. So, you post a bond, you have a performance bond that says you have to plant the tree. Then you have to post a maintenance bond that says that the tree lives for a year.
2, well, okay.
2 years. So it's a 2 years maintenance bond. Here's the question is, maybe it's a question to Eric, is there a process in place so that when you get a maintenance bond, at the conclusion of the 2-year period, you do a final inspection before there's a recommendation to release the maintenance bond?
Right.
Because there's an issue with regards to maintenance bonds, because they actually have a time period in them. They have a 2-year period in them. So if you're going to make a claim, you need to make that claim within that 2-year period. So I think is that, Councilman, how did I do? Is that the question?
That's basically the question, because we're releasing a bond where our engineer has said, I'm recommending to release it because I can't prove that those trees were dead during that 2-year period, because it's now been 4 years later.
To the BA, just, could we look into either?
the engineer can answer
To the
the
engineer,
question.
can we,
Brian's going to answer.
Eric.
Eric, I'm
There's a
sorry.
process, so he's going to go ahead and describe to everybody what we're doing.
Yeah, I think so. What we're going to do, moving forward is when the bonds do expire, like Councilman is saying, is a month or so before, make sure they go out and look at them, make sure everything is still thriving and ready before we do release any form of bond.
now, to the BA, can we look at that being part of a directive of the final release of the bond, that we make sure there's a checkoff that somebody is going to go look at the trees? Is that something we can do?
We can provide that directive to engineering, that if part of the process that they review that about a month or two before the recommendation is made to put out a return for a bond.
Okay.
And to the point of Councilman Brescher, the difference between a maintenance bond and a performance bond is, performance bond we have, and if the developer doesn't ask for an inspection, we hold the bond, and we continue to hold it, forever. We continue to hold the bond, and when they finally come in and say, okay, I would like the bond released, then we do an inspection then, and if what was supposed to be performed wasn't performed, we don't release the bond. But on maintenance bonds, there is a 2-year time period, so you need to get, as you said, because you're in a circumstance now where if it's 4 years later, how do you prove that the bush was not alive 2 years ago? So
Right,
it's a
and-
good point, and there has to be a process.
Okay, that's all I'm looking for, is that someone's going to take the initiative here to make sure this happens moving forward.
Thank you, Councilman Brescher.
The performance bond can go on forever and ever.
Well, it does. Remember, performance bonds simply say this bond is going to stay in place until that work is done. So if they had to put 10 feet of sidewalk, when they come and say we would like the bond release, if the 10 feet of sidewalk isn't done, the bond doesn't get released, and then the bond just stays there. And they need the bond to get released because performance bonds, the way they work is that they stay in effect until they are released, which means every year they pay a premium on those bonds, so there's a cost. But with regards to maintenance bonds, are like the warranty you get on your refrigerator. So If you don't tell them within 90 days that the ice maker isn't working, you're out of luck.
Absolutely.
So that's,
So
that-
we should
that's what
check
happened.
that out every 23 months. We
Well-
should check it at 23 months.
Correct. And put people on notice that, hey, you planted, 100 bushes and 10 of them are dead, you have to replace them.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
everyone. Moving forward to any other questions or comments, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G from the Department of Planning and Engineering?
Council President?
Yes.
In regards to item G with CME, I'll absolutely share with Councilman Brescher what I have pulled up. I took the disbursement reports and kind of tried to tally what the line items were that have been authorized, so I'll absolutely share with you the resolutions that their line items are in there. Last year, we had approved for Colliers, I think it was 180,000 or 185,000. So while I understand that this is an increase on the initial, if we are doing more work, and in theory, we are still under what was approved last year, I'm inclined to be in favor of it. In regards to the tree maintenance bond, you said it much more eloquently than I said it the other month, but that is an issue where after the 2 years, as long as they say, hey, I would like my bond back, we have no way of proving that if a tree is deceased at that time when it happens. So it does put us behind the curve in the sense of, if they have to replace trees, they have to replace trees. So very valid point, and yeah, that's it. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions or comments from the Department of Planning and Engineering? Hearing none, moving on to the Department of Public Works. A. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, moving on to the Chief of Fire. A and B. Any questions or comments? Hearing none from council members, moving on to the Chief of Police. Any questions or comments? Letter A.
Council President?
Yes.
Yes, just a definition of what a light tower with a generator, what is that? What does that look like?
Essentially, those message board-looking things, it looks like that, and for events, per se, we can use those, so, and they're interchangeable, so we can move them around.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And this one says light tower and generator, so it's just a light tower. Is it a digital board too?
It's a light tower with that has
Okay.
a generator backup to it.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments for 14? Hearing none, moving to the council member of the planning board, Councilmember Pointer.
Thank you, Council President. The next planning board meeting is next week, December 19th, 7 PM here at Council Chambers. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, Councilman.
Thank you. Okay, for unfinished business, ordinance for further consideration, public hearing, and final adoption. Any comments on 216522? Hearing none. Any questions or comments on 2166-2022? Any questions or comments on 2167-2022?
Council President?
Yes.
Yes. I know we had emailed you, Sonia, about some questions about this, and it does sound like there was a huge spike in retirements this year over last year. So understand that. How do you plan for the appropriations from year to year? How does what's the formula?
So typically, what you're seeing here is there's a bond that's taken out for the accrued vacation and sick time, and that's paid over a 5-year lapse. But in this case, I think it would be appropriate, and to Councilman Brescher's point, I think it would be appropriate that we actually appropriate within the budget some form of monies in there so that we're not hit up with the bond. So that's a recommendation moving forward, of course. But I think that it just happened to be the time of the year that contracts are up. So you've got union contracts and there's obligations here. So that spike really went up with a lot of different contributing factors. with benefits and pension contributions running up, I think it affects everybody, and that's could have very well likely been what happened here.
Yeah, because that figure of 4 million and change, it was really pretty eye-popping when I looked at that. But, but I think, yes, I think if we can build that into the budget so that it isn't so eye-popping next time, I think that's a very good suggestion. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Harris. Any other questions or comments for 2167, 2022?
I believe he did. Yes.
Anyone, hear none, moving to 2168, 2022. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, 2169, 2022. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. For discussion items, from my left, Councilman John Pointer.
Thank you, Council President. I actually want to give a special thanks to the police department. There was a circumstance that occurred on my street block where there was a physical altercation, and I called 911 to have the police address the situation. It's something that, as a resident, I'm very appreciative of, because the first thing my wife said when I went out, and quite honestly, the altercation went onto my front yard. So when I went out to tell them to get off of my property, the first thing my wife said was, "You have no idea what they may or may not have had." So the fact that our police department was there within like 5 minutes after I called 911 without knowing what the full circumstance was, like, I'm just so appreciative that they are there to help protect the community, and just wanted to express my thanks for that. That's it, Council President. Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Patil.
Thank you, Council President. A couple of things from the engineering department. I did get the clarification, so thank you. Looking forward for further updates on the Summer Street during the next council meeting. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Councilmember Patel.
None, sir.
Councilmember Richard Brescher.
I'm looking for the bills for the engineer, right? I know that our attorney's going to get me some information also. I asked for a copy of this. We had a survey done for the cable. I think Millennium did it. And I'm looking for a copy of that just to see what the public's feel was. And I don't think anybody in the cable committee's seen it. I did request it from them. They haven't gotten it to me. So maybe you can tell me when their bill comes up, because then I'll vote no on their bill if they won't get it for me. And as long as we have the engineer, our street paving projects, the past engineer was coordinating the work that PSE&G is doing. So I'll give you an example. My entire neighborhood behind me was torn up for gas line replacement, and they also did some water lines. So half the street is torn up. They came and they temporarily patched it, right, like we've seen here in Edison. And the previous administration told me that they were coordinating with PSE&G, and that those streets would most likely be paved by the end of this year, or actually this year, because it should have been paved this year, right? So last year, PSE&G and the engineer worked on some kind of deal to do paving. This year, I see we have paving, but those roads aren't being paved. And my question is, then what's going to end up happening is we're only going to pave half the road, where the previous administration, what they did was they tried to coordinate it so that they would do their half and PSE&G would do their half, and the residents got a full street that was paved. Whether PSE&G paved the whole road and then they swapped one, I'm not sure exactly what they did, but whole roads were paved as opposed to half of roads. Now, this year, we haven't paved any roads yet, so I don't see any of that. But next year, moving forward, I hope that you've coordinated that If not, that's going to be a big issue to have half-paved roads again. I mean, we went through that, we corrected that with the previous administration, and I hope that you're going to coordinate that. I asked this before, and I'd like to get an answer to it, as to who takes cars home. We have an ordinance that allows certain people to take cars home, and I've heard that there's a lot more people than that do take cars home. I'm not opposed to looking at that and amending that. But I'd like to get a list of who takes township vehicles home. And I don't think that's kind of questioning a lot. I mean, we pay for the gas, we pay for their tolls, and if our ordinance doesn't say they can take them home, they shouldn't be taking them home unless we change our ordinance. And I'm okay with changing the ordinance, just so you know. But I'd like a list of who takes these cars home and who doesn't. I'd like to say, I also heard, and I told the BA that CME was out there at our Jets field. So it was nice to see that they're out there working on it, that hopefully we get started on that project soon, so that the kids can use it next year. So it was actually good to see that, this was something that got proposed this year and it got put up. And, they're actually out there designing it and, doing the engineering for it. So that was a pleasure to see that work happening so far this year. And that's it, Council President.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Brescher. Next, Councilmember Harris.
Yes, just want to thank Councilman Brescher for, I was not at the meetings, the last two meetings, but I was told that he had introduced in response to the public's concerns about public advocate, which has been passed around like a hot potato for the longest time. I'm really happy to hear that this is something that he has proposed, moving it from just talk to an ordinance. Obviously, there's a lot to be considered here. The devil's in the details, and the details that include, well, what exactly is the purview of a public advocate? Can the public advocate make a decision as to whether or not he or she would take on a case? What kind of cost factor would be involved? And so on and so forth. But I think that's an encouraging step forward, and I want to thank you, Councilman Brescher, for having stepped up to the plate for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Vice President George Ship Freeman.
First of all, I want to say that it was very, very nice participating with the Jewish veterans and discussing discussing details of World War II and learning a lot of information about the pastor whose father, who risked his own life to save the Jewish community. When asked the question, who was Jewish in here, he stood up and said, all of us are Jewish, so that they would be able to come home and be with their families. Some of them were united on the 15th. It was a very, very good gathering. And I'd like to thank the mayor for having Edison TV at the pre-Kwanzaa celebration. Great celebration on Saturday during our Winter Wonderland. I'm glad that most of this year, what has been happening is the mayor's working hard to build a bridge between different communities and culturally trying to connect people. And if you participate in the flag raising and you participate in the programs that's going on, then you are part of the inclusiveness of what we worked very hard on this year. Because with that, moving forward, it makes us better as a community because you can do more together than you can do divided. And also reminding people of the dental office opening on Oak Tree Road. It's manned by females, and they have a lot of great programs there, and the dentist is a female, and so yes, another female business has come to Edison, and I'm very, very proud of that. And something else another thing too that happened this year that happened along with community is the community garden. The community garden was such a great thing and such a success. And with us having Hands of Hope so close to it, and as the year goes on, as the new year comes in, we'll get our planting in early, and we'll have the vegetables, and we'll have all the stuff to share with each other. But as people know, when you have a community going on, you get to meet your neighbor, you get to find out what you're interested in, you get to really see, the vegetables, and you get to see who the products are going to. And I would like people to be more positive and kind of look around at people that may be depressed during this season. Because it really was heartbreaking to me when I hear somebody who has taken their life because no one listened to them. So I want you to know, like during the holidays, most of this stuff ticks up. And as I think Council Member Pointer had the number before, was it 988?
I believe so.
Yes, 988. He said, that's the number to call. But even you, if you have a friend or a neighbor or someone and you see they're acting a little different, try to, be that person that helps them along the way. So far this year, like Councilman Brescher said, we put shovels in the ground, and I'm a strong proponent for our youth. I want that finished, and I heard that with Godspeed, we're going to have it this year when it opens up this year. And hopefully, I'm working hard to get that water park going at all. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Council Vice President. I'll be calling for another DPW committee meeting just to go over our position with this winter coming. So far, as most of you know already, we announced that we had a long meeting with DPW, and we are prepared for snow. So those who are listening right now, when snow comes, we certainly are doing our part and are fully prepared with our trucks and staff for each truck and truck power throughout the town. Another committee for the beautification committee, I'll be asking for a meeting with our colleagues on that. Separate from that discussion, from a state's perspective, Councilman Pointer and I had a chance to discuss with the DOT on some beautification on the highway exit ramps and entry points, and I think the meeting was very productive. And Councilman Pointer moved to some other opportunities that Councilman Nish Patel brought up, which was bike lanes, which will be a meeting coming up this week. We also discussed local aid and different aid that's out there. For today, if anybody has an interest in adopting a highway or being a part of a beautification program on an exit ramp or on a side road, certainly reach out to the clerk and to get your name, and we certainly will move you forward to the person in charge at the DOT. That's all I have. Other council members have any other comments?
Oh, another thing, Council President, I would like to give a round of applause, a gigantic round of applause for the dancers who came to opening night with the type of terrible weather and the rain, and they stuck to it. And they still danced their hearts out, and they were outstanding. So that's what the kind of people we have in Edison, people who fight through it all. I just wanted to make sure that we recognize them for going through it and sticking with it when we had the grand opening for the Winter Wonderland. It's magnificent. Thank you.
Thank you. And we don't have the resolution for today, but on Wednesday, there'll be a resolution for the Edison High School football team for the division championship. So Wednesday, we'll have a pretty good crowd here for those who are listening and want to come. And say congratulations to Edison High School football team. They'll be here with the council receiving a resolution. Okay, that's all I have right now, and I'd like to request a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Patillo, can I have a second?
Second.
A second by Harris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.